Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another video. You guys saw the title. Let's just hop right into it. We're going to be looking at the next kind of week of price action that I'm hoping to see. And we're going to start off, obviously, if you guys don't already know how I do this, on the higher time frames. We work from the weekly chart all the way down towards maybe the 5 minute or the 15 minute. And we're going to kind of identify areas that we're interested in, as well as looking at the news, perhaps what days we might be interested in certain movements. So let's just get started right away. We got this weekly fair value gap, obviously the first thing on my mind. We are going to include this little volume imbalance here at the bottom as well, part of the fair value gap. Again, if you guys don't already know as well, watching my other videos, you know that I always want price to draw towards that halfway mark you can see here. So that's mostly all I see that's on the weekly chart. On the there are like some order blocks. I like this rejection, right? Last couple weeks ago, if you guys were here for this one, I also mentioned how I would like for us to draw lower on this one. Tapped right into the halfway mark. Again, you guys will always notice if you kind of just look around a little bit, right? Price will generally trade right past the halfway mark of a fair value gap and then kind of reject from there. Same here, right? And now I'm hoping same here. So that's kind of what I'm looking at the weekly chart. And so now we can go down towards the daily chart. So we're interested in this fair value gap, but within that fair value gap, there's quite a little bit of interesting things as well. So we have, obviously, I'll kind of delete this for now. Just keep that in mind, that rough area, right? So we have this daily fair value gap as well that we kind of tapped into on Friday into the halfway point, but not the cleanest, not the worst. We could reject straight from here and I wouldn't be like upset about it. But ideally, I do think we draw more into the lower boundary, the lower quarters of this fair value gap as well. We also have this one right here. Now, this one's a bit of a funky one, so you guys might actually have to help me here. Normally, obviously, you include the volume imbalance here, but it's such like a weird wick, right? So for this one, I'll kind of play it by ear, right? Kind of just look at what ends up forming in the end, right? And kind of seeing the rejection we might get from there. Not really interested in moving any lower than this, though. Ideally, we stay within this daily fair value gap, kind of this area. I don't really want us to start moving lower than here. We might switch our bias to bearish if that is the case. So if we kind of analyze it now, let's kind of combine both things that we just said. So the weekly fair value gap here and the main daily fair value gap here, right? You guys will kind of see that it aligns a little bit. So let me actually take this one like a darker green so you guys can see a little bit better. So within the dark green area is around where I want to see us kind of reject, which we are now in. And within that dark green area, that halfway point, so just that last little bit here, this last little bottom quadrant here is the ideal area for us to reject. For me personally, I would love for us to move lower into that and kind of move from there. If you guys trade quarterly theory, we'll kind of go into what days we're looking to see that. As for targets, the main thing that we have to keep in mind is, of course, this daily fair value gap above us. We'll kind of look and see what we do from here, whether we're going to attack that on Tuesday or not, or what other day we might want to see that, kind of trade into that. Obviously, we have not quite hit all-time highs. I do believe we are going to hit all-time highs fairly soon. I do not imagine we'll be very bearish for a little while, at least until we tap back into all-time highs. However, I'm not going to carry that with me to the grave, right? So if we start moving, we reject off this daily, displace past this one, then obviously we're going to start looking for some shorts. But for now, longs just make the most sense. These are our targets, right? And now within the 4-hour chart, we kind of start seeing some interesting things here. First things first is obviously these relative equal lows here, right? So we have these two lows kind of just hanging right there. We also see this daily fair value gap is actually broken up into multiple 4 hours, right? Which so far we have rejected off the halfway point pretty smoothly, right? On Friday and Thursday of last week. And then as well, obviously the original one on Thursday a couple weeks ago. This smaller, you guys remember that weird fair value gap with the big wick and the big volume imbalance is actually now a normal fair value gap, which has not tapped into the halfway point. It's something that I'm definitely interested in. If we kind of, let's actually measure some OTE as well. If we kind of look and measure this range, it's like right in discount as well. So now with continuation moves, I don't need it to go deep into discount or into discount at all. But just based on how we're moving right now, I would imagine that this is where we're going to kind of draw into specifically, right? So we started with the weekly, which gave us a huge area to look at. Here, let me clean up my chart a little bit. So we started with the weekly, which gave us a huge area to kind of look at. Then the daily kind of shrunk it down to like a Smaller area. Now this 4 hours probably as small as I'm going to get in terms of area to reject from. It's right in discount. The halfway point's right there, like 0.5. Looks good. Any deeper than that, I would assume we're probably just going to continue lower. I definitely don't want to. I know OTE, people love to see OTE like reject off this area, but not when we're really like super bullish. For me personally, that's kind of a deep retracement. So this white area right here is kind of where I don't want us to go. I want us to stay within this green area right here. So just keeping this in mind. I'll actually keep this 4 hour on the chart as well. Now on the 1 hour chart, things become a little bit more interesting, right? Again, same relative equal lows that I just mentioned. On Friday, we did reject off this 1 hour fair value gap, but that doesn't really matter to me, to be honest. And now the structure becomes a little bit more interesting. So now we kind of see, if you guys trade AMD, that this has been a pretty rangy move, right? So we kind of had this chop, this consolidation, right? And now you guys can already start piecing together what I'm imagining for the week. I'm imagining a little bit of a continuation off that consolidation. So for Monday, if you guys, Monday's typically the days we like to consolidate. I kind of expect Monday to just bounce up and down from here. And then Tuesday, I would love for us to make the move lower into this area here, and then a rejection from there back up to the upside. So this is pretty much exactly what I'm thinking. Looking something like this, right? Something like this would be ideal for me because we'll have our consolidation, our manipulation into a higher time frame area of interest for me, which is the 4 hour gap. That was within the daily gap, that was within the weekly gap. So just a very strong area that I would expect for us to retrace into. Then I want, obviously, some sort of SMT at the lows, right? So something like if we had an SMT here, that'd be beautiful. Or even an SMT between maybe like a low like this, right? So some sort of 1 hour or 4 hour low would be ideal. And from there, we can start taking our longs. So Monday, typically I don't trade, so I don't plan on taking any trades Monday. Tuesday, I do plan on taking shorts if they present themselves. And then Wednesday, for the rest of the week, probably some sort of longs. Is it going to be such cookie cutter week? Probably not. We're probably going to see some weird stuff going on. But that's kind of just a general idea here. We have a lot of targets throughout the week. We have this high and these highs and this one. And then from there, there's a bit of a gap. So we'll kind of wait to see what we do here. But another high here, right? So now those big targets, now we have smaller targets and we can shrink down even into the 15-minute, right? And we can kind of start seeing same highs, right? High here, 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 and kind of just all around, right? So I know this chart looks a little bit complicated, sorry guys, but you guys should just get the general idea here is that I expect us to move lower into that fair value gap, start attacking these highs, right? Start completing the cycle. We have a lot of, you can see I love when these highs are all stacked right here. We have a lot of stacked highs. We're starting to form stacked highs here. All of this is low resistance liquidity. I would love for us to manipulate lower, bounce off this area, move forward, and have a very explosive move up, kind of similar to what we did right all this time ago on around March. If you guys were trading around that time, same idea, a lot of low resistance liquidity. Then we kind of stuck around, and it's actually a very similar setup if you guys were trading at this time, right? Consolidation, move lower. There was an SMT here, I remember, and we just had a very explosive move up. Is it going to move that much? Probably not, but same idea, right? You guys get the same idea here. Now, in terms of news, I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen. This is the news that we're going to be looking at for this week. There's nothing on Monday or Tuesday, so ideally those are kind of like smaller range days for me. If they're really big range, we might have to adjust our plans a little bit. But ideally, we don't move too much on Monday and Tuesday, right? We have a consolidation and a bit of a move lower, continuation of like that bearish trend. And then Wednesday, we have PCE price index coming out at 830, which is a wonderful target for us. Hopefully, we have some sort of data high that we come back into, trade into. Thursday, again, no news, should be a bit of a smaller range day. And then Friday, I don't really trade anyways, so we'll kind of go and wait and see there. But we do have the chairman speaking, Warsh, and then we also have the Jackson Hole meetings that they do. So overall, this week shouldn't be super crazy. We don't have CPI, we don't have PPI, we don't have anything crazy. We're just looking to trade. Mostly Wednesday is my like ideal day in my brain. I'm like, okay, Wednesday should be a good day. Thursday would be another good day. Tuesday, maybe Tuesday we'll kind of be a bit more cautious. Friday we don't trade, of course, and then Monday very cautious indeed. So should be a pretty good day. Should be a pretty good week. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at ES to kind of support my statements about NQ and kind of look at potential areas that we're interested in as well in the S&P. Same story, right? We have this fair value gap here. So let's kind of mark this out on the weekly chart. We have not tapped into the halfway point again, which supports my idea that I would like to see slightly lower prices, right? Now, if we kind of go on to the daily chart, we have a lot of weird stuff, and this is kind of why ES is a little bit strange. We have very big gaps right here, as you can see on the daily chart. Huge, just kind of gaps, right? On the lower time frames, you can't see it as much, but in the daily chart, it's very obvious. Do I want us to retrace all the way back down to there? Probably not, to be honest, but I don't know if I'm going to say yes or no either way. I definitely don't like us trying to move higher without tapping into those things, but it's also very deep into discount. Now onto the daily chart. Same thing. We're going to mark out this secondary daily fair value gap that I'm interested in us tapping into. All right, that halfway point is also around the quarter of the main weekly fair value gap, which is another very interesting area that I'd like for us to see, right? So somewhere around here would be very, very nice. On the 4-hour, there's not really many areas where I'd like to see us have like major SMT, right? So for example, usually if it's like, oh, we have this huge wick here, I'd like for us to form SMT with NQ with this wick. But since that's so deep into retracement, maybe not so much. We do have these lows here, like this Monday low or this Tuesday lows, but honestly, nothing super interesting to me other than this fair value gap and other than the fact that, again, ES has also formed these low resistance liquidity highs, right? So we have the high here, here, which is very nice. And an interesting thing about the S&P right now is that we are already at all-time highs. So definitely going to have to play a little bit safe, a little bit cautious because that is not ideal, but I'm not too worried about it. We're going to kind of move forward regardless, and we have our plan. You guys already know what I'm looking for. Just kind of keeping an eye out for where ES is relative to NQ is this area instead of this fair value gap was the one I was looking at on NQ. So that's pretty much it for me this week. I'll see you guys all in the next video. I'll make daily videos from here on out, or daily like recaps for you guys to see like, hey, was I wrong? Was I right? First thing I want to say, the last thing I want to say is obviously this is all my personal opinion. I'm not telling you guys what to do. I'm not telling you guys to follow me. I'm not even telling you guys that I'm right. This is just kind of how I see it. This is the way that I trade. And there are times where I'm completely wrong, right? So all it is just keeping an eye out. Plans change, regimes change, markets change. So we have to adapt to those changes instead of trying to, right, stay stuck in one train of thought. This is just my kind of framework that I'm working with, all right? All right, everybody. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace.